All right, so let's check. Come on. There it is. Okay, we are good to go. And then I will keep an eye on the chat. Let's see, let's make sure. Yes, that looks like it's coming across. Very good. And it is 10 a.m. on the button. We're so timely around here. Okay, so everybody who will be joining us for our live stream as we record this episode of my podcast, the Your Massage Practice podcast, I am here with Amber Cook of healingways.com. That's W-A-Z-E, healingways.com. And I just want to, before we jump into the meat of what we're going to be talking about, which is we're really going to focus on time management stuff today. Yeah. But we do have a check-in to do with Amber about the selling of her practice, which we did the whole podcast about selling your practice last time. And then I also just want to say hello, because people are already starting to drop little notes. Hi, Jackie. Good to see you. Glad you're with us.
Good morning, Jackie.
Yes, and for those of you who are kind of new to following us as we do this live recording, you are very welcome to, hi, is it Tilo? I'm assuming. Hello, I'm glad you all are jumping on. So we do try to keep an eye on the comments. Oh good, it is Tilo. We do keep an eye on the chat comments as we go through this. So if you have questions as we go about today's topic, please feel free to throw them in there. When occasionally the questions that you have are really off topic, that's okay. You can still ask the questions, but we may just not answer them in today's episode, put the answers to those in a different podcast episode or a different video. So that's kind of how that works. Very good.
Awesome.
Yay.
Yeah, so would you just like me to dive in and give you an update? I promised that I wouldn't spill any of the beans until we were live.
I know so often as we are recording these things, I kind of already have the skinny, but you have kept me in suspense. So I do just want to give a little bit of background. In our last podcast episode, Amber talked a lot about her experience of selling her long-time full massage practice. And of course, in the last episode, we talked about how the way that you run your practice through the life of your practice really can help set you up to have a great experience as you're selling your practice. She also gave us some great insight on sort of the emotional side of selling your business that you love and have been a part of for so long. So before we jump into our time management topic, yes, Amber, give us the lowdown. What's happening?
Well, first of all, I want to apologize. My voice is a little off. I have kids and have caught what's going around. So I promise to push mute if I cough or start sneezing. But I am really excited to say that I am still selling my practice, but it has evolved into a very different way than I had originally planned, as most things in business seem to do.
Yes.
Sometimes you feel like you're just along for the ride. So I interviewed a lot because I had a process where I wasn't just going to give my practice even to the highest bidder or whatever, right? Somebody could have just offered me like more than I was asking, and I wouldn't have just gone along with the sale. It was dependent on a lot of factors and kind of like an interview process. So I met with a lot of different massage therapists, most of which were screenings just through email, which was great. So I did a lot of screening questions and kind of diving deeper as to why they want to buy the practice. And then a big one that kept coming up is funding. Did they have funding to actually buy my practice? Because there were a few times I met with people and it seemed like a pretty good match. And then we were ready to move forward with the contract. And they were like, wait a minute, I thought I could just pay you this way or that way. And they had their own ideas, but it wasn't ever stated in the sale. I had a price and I said, this is it. And I kept getting a lot of people thinking they could just come up with their own terms.
Oh, interesting.
It was very interesting. So, or that they, wouldn't be able to get a business loan if that's what they needed.
I see.
To
Yeah.
business. So along the way, I met this massage therapist who has only been doing it for 2 years. She is one of the best massage therapists I've come across in my whole career.
Cool.
Before I started my career. So in, 16 plus years, one of the best massage therapists. Her personality, that's a huge one. I was looking for somebody that's personality would not necessarily, obviously not mirror mine. That's not possible. But I feel sorry for her now. But just somebody that's personable, has a lot of the qualities I have within relating to people. And professional, high integrity, reliable. These are all the things I was looking for in a person. And honestly, was really disappointed that it was hard to find. And it was. And I would normally come home, and one of the parts was we would have to exchange massages, so that person could see what my clients were expecting in a general average session, and then I would be able to see what their work was like, and if they would have qualities of their work that would appeal to my clients. Because I want them to succeed. I want my clients to successfully transition as well and be able to continue to get regular massage. So I would do these exchanges, and I would go home and I would tell my partner that, so yeah, it was good, but there was no buts. Everything about her personality, herself, awesome. When we started talking more about it, found out that the funding piece, she was pretty upfront in the beginning that the funding piece might be a challenge. And so I decided that I wanted her to be the one to take over my practice more than anything else. And, and I discussed in the last episode, there was an apprenticeship piece to it.
Right.
Business training, all kinds of stuff. I just had this feeling, this sense, like I want her to just have like a head start in her career. And what a beautiful way to do that for somebody to like
help another massage therapist get their practice
to just
going.
Like give them a full waitlist clientele right from the beginning. I was like, she's so good. I want her to do this forever. I don't want her to struggle for a few years and then decide not to do it anymore, which unfortunately we've chatted about in a lot of other episodes happens way too often. So we decided that for a year, she is going to be an independent contractor. Starting towards the end of this month, she is taking over all of my clients. I will do advertising. I will work to get her more clients. I will no longer do any massage in that office with those clients, and she will have them. And then after that year's time, she gets the business. So it's like, it's like a monthly payment, but there's still the apprenticeship piece and everything involved for a year.
Well, cool.
Yeah, so I'm so excited. We signed the contract this week, and
well, congratulations. That's really wonderful.
Yeah, it's really, really great. So,
and that's really exciting.
I just let it evolve how it did.
Yeah, exactly. And I think hopefully anybody who's listening has this sense of, we just kind of never know what's going to happen or how things are going to work out and what's going to end up feeling best to us and meet the criteria that we need it to meet and meet our goals within that. So congratulations. I'm really glad that you found somebody to take over your practice that you feel so good about. That's, well, very cool. Very cool. So, yay.
So one of the things I'll be chatting with her about is time management, I'm sure.
Right. And I think that, you just talked a lot about how much time it took that you put into this as you were getting this going through this process on your end. And, time management has been big in my world lately as well, which is, in our podcast and all of my podcast episodes, I tend to talk about and bring up subjects that are really alive for me in the moment. And I think that one of the things that's so interesting about running a business is that there are these periods of time, and they are almost always the transitional times, where time management gets really wild and woolly.
Yes.
And it doesn't last forever, right? So like you're at the end of your practice and transitioning your practice to somebody else, and you are transitioning out and somebody else is transitioning in, and that's really beautiful. But that is one of those transitional times where time management kind of like blows up and you have to figure out your schedule and how you do things all over again. I think the other end of that is when you're just starting your practice. So I think that I certainly, like, my practice is very established in a lot of ways. It just kind of runs itself, the client side of things. I had a couple weeks ago, I had more clients reschedule their appointments in a 1-2 week period than I've had in years. In
Was
general,
that last week, you said?
It was a couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yes.
And I thought I was going to lose my mind because I was there was one morning I spent an hour and a half in front of my computer and with my phone, texting and emailing and getting because it was just like client after client after client who was like, oh, can I reschedule this for then? And like swapping sessions and blah, blah, blah. So these are things that I remember doing a lot of in the beginning of my practice as well, when I was just building my practice. And, you know, you kind of get your first handful of clients and your time management looks a specific way when you only have like 5 clients in a week. And it can be really beautiful. And so you have all of this time to put into gathering momentum, to meeting other practitioners, doing the networking that's needing, staying on top of your administrative processes, building your administrative processes, doing some of the bigger thinking that needs to happen for how do I want my practice to run, and then how do I put things in place to make it run like that, right? But then once you start to gain more clients as a result of all of that effort, you start to gain more clients and you start to lose that administrative time. And figuring out how to manage those things, how to let your schedule change, or to how to force that change in your schedule when you find like, oh wow, I'm suddenly swimming in sticky notes and I don't even know where to start, you know, or my list of things to do is so long I just want to like lay down on the couch and give up. Or there are so many different things in these transitional phases. And then once you get into it, so I think this is where we get some funky ideas of what time management looks like. A lot of times we'll hear practitioners like Amber or I saying like, oh yeah, it's so relaxing to have your full practice because it just kind of runs itself, you know, like your clients stay on their schedule. Most of your clients have a pretty regular schedule, whether that's weekly, every other week, once a month. Your clients sort of sort themselves out over time and your schedule gets really stable for the most part. And I think it can be seductive to think when you're in a transition phase, like, well, where did that stability go? Why doesn't it feel stable? As I'm growing my practice, why doesn't it feel like all relaxing like Isabel or Amber talked about? Why do I feel like I'm crazy? You know, and it's because of those transitional moments. So is that how it is for you as well?
Oh,
Amber?
yeah, definitely. And you're so right, because in the transitional moment right now, actually a few transitions, that's exactly what I feel. I'm like, I feel like I'm juggling a million balls and the schedule's totally changing, which like exactly what you said, for the most part, it's very just in the flow, fluid. But right now it's changing. And now I'm having to figure out a schedule for somebody else, a schedule for myself.
Yeah.
It's totally, and I had the same thing last week.
Oh, interesting.
People, it seemed like everybody was sick or whatever.
Yeah.
And,
just like a million
because
reasons.
here in the Northwest, we kind of are getting like an early winter in a way. So
yeah.
Everything seems to be, everything's coming on earlier. And it was that way too. And I was just, it was a good reminder. This is great that this is the topic. This is a good reminder that we also need to still leave room for when those things happen. Because I think I did the same thing. One day it was like, I felt like the whole day I was just following up, rescheduling people.
Yeah. Like, and it can suck a lot of time. And it's so important. I mean, we can't not do it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just want to interject here. Sonia, thank you for your comment. You say, I'm just starting out and man, need to get more involved with your program. Yeah, that's super cool. I would love that. Anybody who wants to head over to yourmassagepractice.com and check out the different classes and program, my big program, all of that. Would love to see you there. And if for those of you who are here watching, if you have a question about time management specifically, for the remainder of our time, we have about 15 to 20 minutes left. I want to talk about some nuts and bolts pieces of time management. So literally, how do Amber and I manage our time, both in sort of these easygoing periods when things are just like do, and then when things start to explode, like, wait a minute, what's happening? So I would love, Amber, we haven't talked about this, we didn't talk about this before we started.
You put me in the hot seat right now.
Yeah, well, I'll start, but I was thinking we could each just go back and forth for a minute, and I'll say one time management like thing that I do really regularly to help myself stay sane, and then you can tell one thing, and then I'll tell one thing. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good.
And I also, before we do this little back and forth ditty, I want to say a lot of time management is about integrating processes in your business. So some of the things that I'll say it as if it's like an isolated thing. I just inject this into my schedule, but really it's about, you have to figure out how all of these things work together, how they're integrated together. So the time management pieces are not usually discrete, like boxed in techniques or tools that you can use just on their own. Sometimes they are, but more often it's about how does it fit into your whole practice, your whole business. So kind of think about that. Let your mind kind of range out and imagine like, oh, how would I integrate that idea or that how-to? How would I integrate that into how I know I work? Because how I work is different from how Amber works, which is different from how you work, you who are listening to this. So really think about it in that way. Like, it's not about doing one thing right. It's about figuring out how to fit things into this whole jigsaw puzzle that is your beautiful, beautiful business. So cool. Okay, well, I'll start us off with the how-to. Because I've talked about it for years, and it's the one thing that I come back to. So sometimes I end up gravitating away from it for a while, but it's the thing that I inevitably come back to, especially in those wild moments. And it's to have a notebook. So for those of you who are joining us on YouTube, you can actually see the little notebook I'm holding in my hand, but it's a thin, just bound, lined notebook. Some people prefer unlined pages. It's totally up to you. But it's sort of my brain. It's my external brain. And as you can see, like, I'll put sticky notes on some pages, and I just write down everything that needs to be done, sort of stream of consciousness style. So some things take up one line, some things take up half a page. And then as I go through my week, I just try to keep an eye on what's in the notebook. And I go back, and sometimes I've completed a task or crossed something off my list just in the course of my day. So if one of the things was call back Sarah about rescheduling her appointment, right? Then I may have done that without even consulting my list, or she got a hold of me before I could call her, and it just crossed itself off, essentially. But for me, being able to draw a line through things is like a psychological necessity to stay sane. So my little notebook, and I have actually, I always used to use, because I love handwriting, I always used to use a paper and pen. And then the iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil came out, and it turns out that the programs, so I use GoodNotes, there are other programs that you can handwrite in a notebook, in a digital notebook. It's the iPad notebook. And I can handwrite it just like in my paper book. I can see all the pages at once. I can do, and so that I've shifted to that, but it's the same function. And then I get to go back and cross things off when I've finished them. So for me, this is one of my major time management tools.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'm going to piggyback on that because I have one very similar but a different style.
Excellent.
So in my office, I have a large blank wall, and not my massage space, like my home office where I do admin stuff. So wherever you have a place to do this. I've made a big chart, and I don't have it up right now because I'm in the process of moving, and I had to take it off to to show my house yesterday, but so I have this big chart that I took this huge, just blank white piece of paper, and I put today, tomorrow, this week, next week, this month, and next month. Categories at the top, just big lines down, and then I have a bunch of sticky notes right next to that space on my desk. And so back to sticky notes, and I like to write stuff too. You know, I mean, we're body workers. We like to feel that kinesthetic stuff. So I write down the task as they come to mind, as I've been told to do something, whatever. I write on the sticky note, and I choose which category it goes into. And I try to, then for me, instead of crossing off, I get to pull the sticky notes off.
Ooh, that's satisfying.
And it is very satisfying. So yeah, I love that technique. That helps me stay on track and keeps time where
that's awesome. And so the other thing I'll say, one of my students last year, I think it was, in the Own Your Practice program, we were talking about this, and he was doing a great job of keeping a list going, kind of a running list of all the things that he needed to be doing. But he was using a digital file, and we realized a little bit too late in the process, but you know, whatever, you just start over where you're at and keep going from there, that he was deleting things. Instead of just crossing them out, he was deleting them. And I actually recommend that you don't do that, because it really helps to have some sort of record of what you've actually done. So like with the sticky notes, you still can keep the sticky notes. I mean, maybe you just have an old sticky notes box or something. But it really helps to be able to see sometimes exactly what you've already done. So for any of you looking for like little organizational tips, things like that, I would recommend, however you do it, try to have some way of maintaining a record of your to-do items that you've actually done. So that's why I also like the crossing out method.
Yeah, then you keep a record. Yeah. Okay, so your turn. What's another one?
All right. Another one. Oh, for any of you who have listened to me for any amount of time, you know I love talking about doing your books, because we should all be doing our books. Right? So, yep. So one of my time management things is actually my process for making sure that my books get done and that all my receipts get accounted for and all my income gets accounted for and it all gets put into QuickBooks, and then my accounts get reconciled. So that process is one of the most essential time management pieces that I have. And over time, I've honed it to take the least amount of time possible and the least amount of thought possible. And I'll just tell you really quickly, I'm actually going to make a video about this for my students to walk them through in detail the whole process. But in your wallet, just keep every receipt that if you buy something physically and get a receipt for it. And always say, yes, please, I want the receipt. For some of you, you may prefer your receipts to go to your email. I suggest if you own a business, just get that printed receipt right away. Don't wait for it in your email. It's too easy to kind of forget that it's there or miss it in the shuffle and the digital shuffle, unless you have a special way of dealing with that. I keep all my physical receipts, like if I'm out somewhere and I buy something for my business, which is actually kind of rare. I don't buy a whole lot of things for my business. It's one of the beautiful things about having a massage practice is we really have quite low overhead. But all those receipts go into my wallet, and then they just go into a folder for the month. At the end of that month, or at the beginning of the following month when I'm doing my books, I take out all those receipts, and then I separate them out in between personal receipts, like grocery store receipts, and anything that I bought for my business. And then if things are in my email, like I bought CE, I paid for a CE class online, then I immediately print out those receipts, and they also go into the folder. When it comes time, I put all of those into QuickBooks, and just having them all in one place at the beginning of the month instead of having to hunt down receipts, which is super crazy making. It saves so much time, so much headspace. That's one of my favorite how-tos for actually managing time. So it seems like just kind of like a basic organizational thing, but hunting down receipts can suck time from your life, or hunting down checks that clients wrote, or just kind of having a place for all of your money stuff, a physical place for all of your money stuff will save you a lot of time.
organization, definitely.
Yeah.
And I actually do a lot of email receipts, but I have an email folder.
Aha.
I just immediately drop, as soon as the email comes in, I move it over to that email folder, or that receipt folder. But okay, so another time management, online scheduling.
Ah, yes.
I just love it. It took me a while to get on board. I was one of the last, like getting a cell phone. It just takes me a while. And I was one of the last to get on board, and I would never go back to the traditional. It saves so much time. You just have to put a little bit more time into it in the beginning to make sure that your whatever system you use, the confirmation emails, the correct stuff.
Yeah.
The reminder emails are all the same. Make sure you put in your cancellation notice. Make sure you have, and then setting up your schedule. But online scheduling for me has just been, I don't know how much time it's opened up. I didn't keep track of that, but it feels like it has just even made it simpler. And in fact, most of the time, I don't then have to spend that back and forth time texting with people, emailing.
Yeah.
I give them the link.
Yeah.
I get on the schedule. So
absolutely. Yes. I fully second what Amber just said about the scheduling. Yeah. So this time management thought thing is for people who are in the building process, like in that initial push to build their practice. And I want to acknowledge right away that for some people, you may be a couple years into trying to get your practice to full time, have a full client load. You might be feeling frustrated by that. And it doesn't matter how long time-wise it's been, but if you're still in that stage of pushing to try to get to a full client load, then this one is for you. And it will save you so much time if you actually take the time to learn the business structure of a massage practice specifically, not what does a generic business look like. There is so much generalized information about how to run a business out there on the internet. There's so much information about how to run an online-based digital business. There's so much information about how to run a business that is based on inventory. So like a retail space, essentially, where you have inventory and then you sell that inventory and you order more inventory. Like, there's tons of information about that. There is actually very little information about what a massage business looks like, about what that structure is. And I am telling you now, that structure is different from a retail outlet or an online business. Amber, what do you...
Other service businesses.
Or even other service businesses.
Yeah, it really is.
Yes. So I was friends with a number of acupuncturists in the beginning of my business. And even so, they're similar in some ways, but they're different enough that over time I realized I needed to stop taking business advice from the acupuncturists who were running their own businesses, because for me, it was based in, they can run multiple rooms at a time. I cannot. I am one-on-one with my client. And if you're a Bowen worker or an energy worker or somebody who can run multiple sessions simultaneously, that's a different ball of wax, and your practice will look different if you're working with multiple people at the same time. Multiple people at the same time. But if you're sort of what a historical massage practice looks like in terms of we are one-on-one with our hands on our clients for an hour or an hour and a half or half an hour, however you run your sessions, that kind of business looks a very specific way and has its own specific needs that cannot be addressed by the other types of business structures that are being taught out in the world. So really take the time and effort, and this is something that I pride my programs on, is that I am all about teaching you to run a massage practice, because that's the kind of business I run. I'm not going to teach you how to run something I don't know how to do personally. So anyway, it will save you so much time if you're not trying to make your practice look like a kind of business that it simply is not.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Yeah.
One last time management thing I wanted to add is making yourself a schedule.
Yes.
Even before you have clients. even if you just have one client. For me, and even if you're somebody that likes to have a very fluid schedule, that's fine, make it flexible. But it is important for most of us to schedule work time.
Yes.
You would do that if you work for somebody, you're going to have hours that you work. So schedule your work time. And so, for instance, when I first started my practice, I knew the amount of days I wanted to work. I knew the amount of hours a week I wanted to work. I had one client.
Yes.
But I wanted to work 20 hours a week. So I scheduled 20 hours of my week. I mean, I was a single parent at the time too. So, it all depends on your life situation and circumstances. So I had to schedule 20 hours, even though I didn't have 20 hours of clients. And then I realized, well, if I want to see 20 hours of clients, I really need to schedule 30 hours.
Right. Exactly.
So I learned, but I scheduled that time even before I had clients. And then I used that time to do business building activities.
That's right.
Like Isabel just said, learning business skills from someone like Isabel, networking, trying out all the different things you can do. That's what I use that time for. So,
yeah.
Give yourself a schedule. Don't just go out there and willy-nilly wait for people, or just decide that day that you want to work or you don't want to work.
Yes. Yeah. I could not agree more. And the other thing that I see students do a lot when they first come into my program is they'll say, well, I want to be available to my clients at all times. And that can work, but especially if you only have 1 to 5 clients a week. And I think that's when the anxiety is highest, that you need to meet all of those 1 to 5 clients' needs perfectly. But the reality is you start building your business structures from the beginning. So you make your schedule, and when you tell your clients, no, if you really don't want to work evenings, when you say, no, I'm sorry, my last appointment starts at whatever it starts at for you. If 6 o'clock is the latest appointment you want to have, if 4 o'clock is the latest appointment you want to have, it doesn't matter what the time actually is. When a client says, can I come in at 8 o'clock? You say, oh, actually, my schedule is this. Would it work for you to come in at this time? Or when in those hours, would it work for you to come? It's okay if a client hesitates and has to think about, like, oh, when during those hours would it work for me to come? The whole idea is that you are setting expectations, and the expectation, I think, should never be that they can get in with you anytime for any reason. I just don't think that's a good business practice. It doesn't preserve your energy for the long term. It doesn't set good boundaries with your clients from the beginning. And it's okay to flex it. So certainly there are clients still that I have 10-year-long clients that if they fall down and twist their ankle and they really need to get in, or whatever it might be, yeah, I'm going to create a little bit of flexibility there, maybe outside. Yeah, maybe outside of my regular schedule hours, but that's a rarity. It is not my go-to. So.
Agreed. 100%. 100,000%.
100,000%. Yes. So in some ways, I think what we've been talking about, these how-tos, can seem a little bit esoteric, but they affect the bottom line of your time management. So time management is not just about blocking time. So some people like to use calendar blocking during this 4-hour period. I will only do email answering or whatever. There are lots of different ways to get that organizational stuff done. But for me, over time, it's been more important to set my principles in a way, my principles of time management, so that those are my bottom line. And then if I do time blocking for, say, a month, great. But I know myself well enough to know I'm not going to do time blocking for a whole year. It's just not how I roll. Some people do. Some people thrive on that. So I know myself well enough to say, okay, these are my general principles of time management. And then the rest of it can be a little bit fluid. I'm not trying to be super esoteric. I do want you to have like hard and fast things that you can take away from this, but I also want to acknowledge that it's not enough just to have like these little tiny, like, time blocking. That'll solve all your problems, because it won't if the rest of the way you manage your time isn't on board with that.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Yeah, time management. It's one that I find is the most challenging in our industry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would definitely suggest that if you have any questions on that, this would be a great time to put them in there. And if we sign off before you get them answered, we'll come back and check.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're about to sign off of this. We have just a couple minutes left. And maybe we should, I think you alluded to something really important there, Amber. And I don't know if this is what you meant, but also time management with our clients in session. So one of the things that I think our industry historically has not done well with is beginning and ending sessions on time, at the times stated.
Yeah.
So I mean, I am such a stickler about being on time for my client appointments. I don't no-show. I don't show up late. I don't let clients run over by a half an hour. I tightly manage my time for my sanity and also so that I set consistent expectations for my clients.
Yeah. Well, and you're respecting them by doing that.
Yes.
I recently told somebody that, I do business coaching as well for the holistic industry, and I was telling one of my clients that I was like, it is about our sanity and the expectations, but it's respecting them as well.
Yes.
And even if they feel like it's maybe not because they feel like they lost some time or they're a little angry, like in the end, that's really what it's about as well. Like their time is valuable too. So like if you run over time, they may not have had that extra 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I've had massages where I get off the table and it's 15 minutes past the time my massage was supposed to end. That doesn't make me happy. It actually makes me probably not want to come back to that massage therapist because they weren't respecting my time either.
Especially
like they thought they were being nice and giving me extra time, but I needed to be off that table 15 minutes before that because I have something else to do.
Right. And that is, I learned that the hard way in the first year of my practice. I just assumed everybody would be happy to have extra time, and I had extra time on my hands, whatever. So I had this repeat client, and he came in, we were really working on his shoulder stuff, and I went like 15 or 20 minutes over his session, and he didn't say anything because oftentimes clients won't explicitly say anything because they don't know how to address it, because that's not their job. Like it's our job to manage time. And it turns out he had sent me an email before that session that I didn't get. I didn't see it in time. And he said, I need to be out on time because I have like an event I have to be at. And I had run us 20 minutes over. And I had to send him an email and say, I'm so sorry, I just saw this. Because I didn't verbally check in with him either. Like, hey, we're going over time. Do you have time? And it's not just about your time, and it's about, how we communicate with our clients, so much of it. But yeah, so just wanted to bring in that last little bit of time management, not just from the administrative side of it, but also in person with our clients. So cool.
Good one. And I had those learning experiences as well.
Yes. I think most of us probably have. Yeah. Very good.
That's what we're talking about now to help you guys who are listening maybe not repeat our mistakes.
Hopefully. Or maybe only repeat them once and then get on board.
Because mistakes, they usually add to growth. They add to your growth. So
they're
not bad. It's a little embarrassing when it happens.
Yeah. Yep. Take some correction and then you just keep moving with your life. Good. All right. Well, it is time for us to jump off. Thank you all so much for being here today. I hope that you got something useful out of that you can take away, start using, start thinking about right away. Thank you, Amber, so much for not just sharing how it has wrapped up with selling your practice, but for all of your time management thoughts today.
Awesome. Of course. Thank you for having me, as usual.
Very good. Okay. Oh, and Sonia, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. We will see you on more podcast episodes or videos in the future. Okay. Bye, everybody.